Alright guys, welcome to edutainment for us. Of course, I've started a bit late, again 2 hours late, but it's as a result of a beehive of activities that were surrounding my domain. So thank you so much for coming here. And of course, I'm just following up on political temperature and situation or the atmosphere in Kenya currently. Of course, as we start with the Tanzania. The Tanzanians have decided to go psychological, right? And we've seen them going to Nifa's mall and buying all the masks because her act of dancing to the song Nywi Nywi and also the fact that she was seen selling masks during the demonstrations has led her to treason charges. I didn't know that there could be such funny moments or absurd moments in a country where a citizen would be put in jail or rather face treason charges merely by selling masks or maybe dancing to a challenge. And I've already talked about it earlier, so I'm just progressing and going on with the discussion. So welcome to Edutainment for Us, and thank you so much for joining us in political analysis, and I am up to the task. So what do you gain of Kenyan politics, Tanzanian politics, Uganda politics? Of course, yesterday we talked about Zambia, we talked about Sudan, we also talked about Tanzania and Kenya. And of course, in Kenya, we have a milestone of issues to discuss here. So thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, liking the video, commenting, and dropping all your likes every moment. You are the best in the best. Oh, and I definitely appreciate your effort and your presence all the time, because you really matter to me. So you've been also helping me to get some focus on different countries, and of course the latest having been South Sudan, or Sudan rather. I hope you looked at my previous video. I also had some discussion on Uganda, and I hope you checked into Museveni's kingdom and saw what I discussed. I talked about Zambia and the Chingola issue, and we also talked about the aspects surrounding Tanzania, among other nations. So thank you so much. We'll always be proud to cover the politics of the world. In fact, yesterday we also talked about the US. Babur Ali, welcome. Babur Ali is asking, what are you saying? Of course, I'm into political analysis. From the title, you can see we're focusing on Kenyan aspects. I don't know. Our president keeps saying that he's the best, but I don't know whether he is. Cookies, hello. Cookies is from Tanzania. Karibu sana. I don't know whether it's a lady or man. Karibu sana mwenzangu, I can say that. Babur says, go be a leader, I'll follow you. Of course, with time, I'll become a leader, no worry. Time will tell. But currently, we are just trying to discuss matters around the world. So as we start with Tanzania, though majorly I'm focusing on Kenya. So Tanzania, nini kinaendelea? Of course, tunaona kwamba Samia is trying to submit to dialogue. Anajaribu kusema kwamba Babur Ali, I'm from Kenya. And of course, with the Kenyan politics as it goes with time, we will definitely be in the limelight of political leadership. Because when we see what people are doing, we don't really like it. You look at Tanzania, we have a dictator. Uganda, we have another military dictator. We look at Kenya, a dictator in upcoming. All right. So Babur Ali, thank you so much. In Kenya, there is where I am. Cookies, karibu sana. Tanzania kunaendeleaje? Of course, nilikuwa napata ujumbe mwingi sana kutoka Tanzania. And because I told you, I have students whom I actually taught from Tanzania. And there is a lot to talk about, actually. But we don't have to really keep talking about Tanzania, apart from the few issues that are emerging. So tumesikia kwamba Suluhu finally is submitting to have a dialogue with the opposition. But I just don't know what kind of dialogue will she have. It's unfortunate that sometimes people ride on the blood. Babur Ali, yesterday I talked about Sudan. Please check on the video I did yesterday. It has covered widely matters Sudan. And of course, you know, the Sudan issue is that people are suffering a lot because of the civil strife that has been there. People are lacking medicine, lacking schooling, work, and all that. So you can check on my video I did yesterday, Babur, and you will see. So currently, my focus or my preparation has been on Kenya and partly Tanzania, just some few details. So Tanzania, of course, they are regaining that moment of calmness, but they are using now a psychological war. Of course, what we know about Tanzania, there are some young people who have gone to NIFA. Remember, NIFA, the influencer, was arrested and put on treason charges without even court trial. Very unfortunate. So it has happened that people actually went to her shop, the mall, and bought all the masks, because remember that was the main cause as to one of the causes as to why she was persecuted into treason charges. So look at this video. I want to show you a video here about NIFA, then we proceed to other matters. Cookies says, I'm your first like. Thank you so much for the like. And let's continue liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and I really appreciate your presence. I don't take it for granted, and God will bless you in your endeavors for always supporting me, watching my videos, and ensuring that I go on with political analysis. Of course, there is Botswana critics. I don't know whether I'll manage to talk about it, but I'll be seeing whether I'll find time to do so. So let's start with the NIFA, how it happened in her shop, and now we can come to Kenya politics. Here we are. So actually those were people who had to storm NIFA's shop. So this was not a regular sale because people turned out in NIFA's shop in Tanzania after she was charged with treason, and her mother had actually showed concern to Suluhu, but Suluhu refused to see. So people turned out in the morning and decided to buy the masks from her shop, and that is NIFA's mall. And when they started to buy those masks, you see, this is what led to her treason. Okay. So NIFA has finally found the favor of citizens because they have turned to her mall and bought all the masks, because they are saying if at all this is what led to her charges, let them show Samia that they are actually regaining freedom by buying her masks. Yeah. Sorry. So sorry for that commercial break, but if you have been following the story of TikTok star NIFA, you understand that she was charged with treason, and because she had also been selling tear gas masks in Tanzania during the demonstrations. So later on, after Mama Samia took over leadership, she decided to have her arrested, and she was taken in with the Magereza car. Of course, we have seen that bus. She alighted from the Magereza bus, and she was actually charged with treason without court moments. That's a funny constitution of Tanzania. And at the end of the day, her mother came out to plead with Samia, but Samia never listened. So finally, NIFA has been in, but there is someone operating her shop. So people turned out in her shop and bought all the masks. And some of them, when asked by the press, they indicated that they were doing so as an act to rebel against the dictatorship in Tanzania. So we saw this happening. So according to Tanzanian authorities, they actually had to take her because they say when she was dancing, then began to sell masks, which are tear gas masks. She was preparing citizens to go for demonstrations, and that is why they had to charge her with treason. However, the young people don't seem to agree with this, and that's why today in the morning they had to storm her shop and buy all the tear gas masks in support of solidarity with her. And at the end of the day, I don't know what will happen, but you can drop a comment if you think you understand what is going on. According to me, I believe this is a psychological war that Tanzanians are trying to play. And of course, many people believe that Tanzanians can't react. But I believe that somehow the Gen Zs are a very different race, and they have different ways of exhibiting, their ways. All right, so let's get to an analysis of the presidents of East Africa, the three nations, of course. Currently, many people think that Samia is a dictator, and Museveni is a military dictator, and Uhuru Kenyatta is also a dictator in making. I don't know, not Uhuru Kenyatta, but RUTO. RUTO, the current president. I don't know why I've said Uhuru Kenyatta. So let's get to see an analysis here that is being done. And I don't know, based on what you think, you can drop a comment. But based on the Al Jazeera interview, our president actually came out to say that he has done all that the citizens need. I don't know whether he has really done it. It's so absurd that he keeps hammering, the same points forever. And when citizens look at it, they don't see that that has been satisfied. Currently, of course, we are seeing a lot of victims from Elgeyo Marakwet, those who are actually swallowed by landslide. We have also seen that Nakuru, we have people who have been affected. Naivasha, Lake Naivasha calling. Internet. And I had to, just disconnect. I had to disconnect because when someone calls when you're on a live stream, it really affects the reception. Going to happen here. What is this? I don't like this. When people call, sometimes they just interrupt with the internet, and there's no way you can actually hinder that. As long as you're using a phone to do the analysis and people have your number, they'll keep calling at a wrong time. Anyway, we have to proceed. But the way we'll now be looking at the videos will be affected, and also I can't see the charts. I can see the charts now. So let's see what we'll do. But we are into 13 minutes, and of course we'll continue. So let's look at this. Of course, we've seen Naivasha. The rising waters of Lake Naivasha displaced a lot of people in Nakuru. And so far, I've not seen the government coming out to talk about this. Yesterday, we saw Rachel going to Elgeyo Marakwet, taking 6 mattresses and some few, tissue papers and some plastics and I don't know what, with Murkomen and the CS. Unfortunately, they have used a lot of money to get to the place when that money could have been used to help those people. It's unfortunate. Sometimes when countries decide to act in their own sense without thinking about the welfare of the people, you don't know what to say. But that is why we are here to critique, so that future leaders should think about their decisions. We are watching. We are watching, and we have to talk about this. And if leaders have to act, they have to think before they act. Actually, how do you use aeroplanes? You use cars, and you get to a place and you only contribute some 6 mattresses in a place where 32 people have died. We have 11 people who are being looked for, and we have several people who have been displaced. It's unfortunate. So let's look at Naivasha. Of course, we understand that water has invaded. So many people are suffering. Diseases are prone to happen. Possibly diseases like cholera and typhoid and all that are going to emerge in this place. And we have not heard the government speaking about this. I hope they are going to address the issue, but yeah, it's a very unfortunate. So let's check at this matter. Look at this.
It's a beehive of activities with residents forced to move out of their houses due to floods caused by the rising waters of Lake Naivasha. Where Cecilia Wanjiru's family home once stood is now an unsanitary scene of dirty water and solid waste scattered everywhere. She is desperate. Tumestuka sana, tujaiona miaka hiyo yote nimeishi huku. Mawazo yangu ni kushindwa, tunatoka hapa tuende wapi? Na tunajua hapa ndio nyumbani. Cecilia lacks words to explain her current situation, but the pain in her eyes reflects the depth of her loss.
Kuwekelea mawe kwa kitanda, tupate mahali ya kulala, kupikia, lazima tuweke jiko juu ya mawe ndio tupige chakula, watoto wakule walale. Hata watoto hawaoni jua.
Hamisi has no clear plan on where to go from here.
Nikiangalia mtoto, nirudi niende kumalizia pipi, hata kukula sikuli. Mtoto akikuangalia na akikuongeleza ni machozi.
Naye narudi kuambiwa ni rebellion. Sasa hata ninashindwa nitafanya nini? I feel that my people either were duped and duped by the government because they have genuine title deeds. And my appeal is to the government of Kenya just to compensate the landowners of this place.
All right, guys. So if you look at Nakuru currently, people are flooded. The homes are flooded and the water is surrounding their homes. You know, they have no help. The government is not talking about it. And maybe they'll come to talk about it, but will they address the fact that we have some people who are currently being told they occupied land that is government land? These are matters that we have to look at as we deep into the matters of citizens. However, it seems that the Rift Valley lakes are now swallowing villages as it was predicted 8 months ago. If you remember, there was a Kenyan historian who actually did a documentary. I don't know whether you watched, but this happened. Now let's get to other situations. And of course, we have seen a lot of exchange. We just see an exchange between the president and another person. But the rising Lake Naivasha has actually displaced 4,000 residents at Kihoto. All right. So I don't know how the government is planning to handle this. I've not heard yet any politician talking about it. All that the politicians are talking about is 1 term, 2 term, 1 term, 2 term. It's actually a moment that we make our leaders accountable. This is the moment they are supposed to visit these places and help because they have the money. If you talk about Gachagua, he has a lot of money. Actually, if you remember very well, he had declared himself on an interview when he went with Mother Karua on an interview before election. He said he had his net worth was 600 million Kenyan shillings. And that time, there was about 200 million that was held up or freezed. Now, when the government took over and he was under the RUTO government, he was actually his freeze 200 million was let go. And therefore, he came up to 800 million. He also had a land worth 2.1 billion Kenyan shillings. And there was a case in court which was released when he became the vice deputy. And therefore, now he became worth 2.1 billion, 800 million Kenyan shillings. And there is much more. Of course, we've heard about companies and all that. So this is one person who can assist. Really go to Elgeyo Marakwet help. Yeah, a real politician should do that. He should either send people or go to Elgeyo Marakwet help. He should also get to Naivasha as fast as possible and help, so that we don't just see them talking about 1 term, 2 term, 1 term. RUTO, what are you doing? RUTO is supposed to go to Elgeyo Marakwet. Even though the wife went, we didn't see a lot of help coming out with the Murkomen. We have also seen the team of his team going places campaigning. We wish that we see RUTO going to Naivasha to help these people who are submerged. Actually, that is the role of leaders. Maybe some people will say that that's not their role, but when emergency happens in a country, that is part of their role. Please, guys, continue subscribing to the channel as we go on with our analysis. Now, Justin Muturi has been releasing stories after the launching of his book. On the other hand, we saw RUTO going for an Al Jazeera interview, and I don't know why he lied on camera. Let's just listen to this, and I don't know what you think as a Kenyan. Has RUTO actually realized your dream as a Kenyan? Has he really fulfilled the manifesto he dropped in the when he was going into office? And is he really going to make this country a first world country? Those are the questions I can leave to you as we continue listening to him on Al Jazeera.
Kenya have been very high. Have I met those? Why? William Ruto, President of Kenya, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Now, the last time I spoke to you on this program was just a couple of weeks after you assumed office. That was 3 years ago. A wave of enthusiasm from Kenyans with your election. You said you were going to unify the country. You were a consensus builder. Now, I look at the headlines now. I've seen some headlines saying you're the most unpopular president in Kenya. To be fair, I've not found polls to back that up. But if I do look at the polls, your popularity has slumped. Why? It's the nature of politics. When you get into office, there is stuff to be done. You know, people's expectations are high. Many people expect things to happen immediately. But it takes time to fix up stuff. If you look at the 3 years I've been in office, I did make commitments to the people of Kenya. Huge commitments, many pledges. And it is the basis upon which the expectations of the people of Kenya have been very high. Have I met those expectations? I can confidently tell you that on a scale of 1 to 10, I have done 8.
Our president has done 8 out of 10 in the pledges that he made to Kenyans. And how I wish I would have brought here the manifesto, because if I look at the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, or rather UDA, UDA actually is its manifesto. I just definitely have to bring it here. Yeah, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza. Let me look for it because I downloaded it somewhere. And maybe let's analyze with you to see the manifesto and how much has been achieved. Oh my God, the politicians we have in Kenya. So actually, during the moment when Kenya Kwanza was seeking election into office, the manifesto read about how many pillars? Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. They had 8 key aspects in their manifesto, if you remember. One of it was focused on agriculture, because remember that time, the price of flour was very high. So they began with flour, unga, so they could say food security is a problem in Kenya. So as Kenya Kwanza, we are going to do the following. And they promised us the following. They said that they are going to allocate 250 billion over 5 years, that is 2023 to 2027, to agriculture to support 2 million poor farmers to move from food deficit to surplus produces. Okay? They also said they are going to use modern farming methods to increase productivity of value chains in maize, dairy, beef, and reduce the basic food imports, by 30%. They also say they'll provide affordability or affordable working capital via cooperative groups and farming organizations. Let me just boost my internet. Maybe 5 minutes. Don't go away, please. I plead with you. And continue subscribing to the channel as I boost my internet. Yes, of course, I've done the boosting of the internet, so please welcome back to the channel and let's proceed with our analysis. Sometimes the internet becomes so inefficient in one way or the other. So that was the first on the manifesto. It was about agriculture and food security. And you've seen the 3 aspects in which the government promised. Have they delivered? Maybe I can say they have delivered maybe 40%. But we have not seen the modern farming methods enhanced, we still have basic imports being conducted, like on rice and many other products, including wheat. They also said that they are going to have affordable working capital via cooperative groups and farming organizations. I don't know how this has been realized. I've not heard our president tell us that. The second thing on the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza was actually micro, small and medium enterprise. And I have to laugh at this. Why am I laughing? Remember, there is a tax aspect that has been actually introduced. The fact that e-receipts have to be there. You know, when you talk about e-receipts, it means even small-scale businesses, small businesses cannot operate without paying those very funny taxes here and there. And what it's going to do is just to kill the small businesses, because they cannot do business with big companies, maybe with serious financial organizations. So our president promised during the manifesto that they will end criminalization of work. That is, they'll reduce licensing burdens for informal sector workers. I don't know whether this has been done. Maybe you can drop a comment on this. They also had said they'll provide 50 billion Kenyan shillings annually to MSME financing through SACCOs and equity funds. How much has this been attained? I should know. They also said they will provide urban street trading premises in ratio 1/50 urban residents to increase average daily income for informal traders. When I look at this, and especially when I look at Nairobi City, a lot of people have complained, even though there are markets that have been built all over the country, but I'm not so sure. Some of those markets are not being used. Actually, when you look at the kind of tax that has to be paid for you to maintain a stall, some people have walked out of those markets. Then housing and settlement. They promised that they are going to increase annual housing supply to 250,000 units per year and grow affordable housing share from 2% -2 to 50%. They'll grow mortgages from 30,000 to 1,000 units by enabling low-cost mortgages. I don't know whether mortgages are low. I've not tried any. All I'm seeing is that for civil servants now, loans have been moved from 8 years to 10 years. And in the period of 10 years, some of us can only afford 1.9 million. You get that? So I don't know whether they were reduced. I'm trying to understand, and I'm battling with that understanding. Maybe some of you understand financial calculations, like I saw this guy, Ndindi Nyoro. You can make us understand more. He also said that he's going to establish a settlement fund to acquire land and resettle 1 to 1 million landless families. Of course, on Saturday, while he was in Samburu, he tried to explain how he has settled people from Mau. But there are still so many Kenyans who are still squatters. In healthcare, what did Kenya Kwanza promise us? They promised us to provide fully publicly financed primary healthcare. Fully funded. Now, the other day I heard him talking about when he was in church in Samburu. He now began to say that those of you who are civil servants are rich. You are blessed. And you should not be arrogant. You should just be willing to help others. You already have a pay slip, and therefore you should help them to grow up. I was like, seriously? Do you know the civil servants suffer the most? Some of them, when they are sick, their colleagues have to keep contributing on WhatsApp groups. Sometimes they have to contribute from families. And he was brilliantly saying that currently, those who have some pay slips should pay for those who don't have. I was like, are you serious? Even my parents don't work. But for me to actually allow them into an insurance, I have to pay money through that SHIF or SHAF. So what is he saying? I don't understand so far. Maybe someone should make me understand. But he said that he's going to provide fully publicly financed primary health care, which is preventive, promotive, outpatient, and diagnostics, which with the choice between public, faith-based, or private providers under regulated staff. He also said that he's going to offer universal health insurance That is, NHIF was supposed to be changed. Of course, he did that. But then we saw a lot of loopholes. When we were checking in the month of July, there were a lot of loopholes that came out, and it happened that some people have come up with SHA, with the private institutions, especially, I doubt, the aspect of Northeastern, why Duale was really defending himself. He has created ghost hospitals, and so many other people must have done the same, and they are now gaining from this, you know. Yeah. He also promised, number 5, ICT, digital, economic, and creative economy. I hope you remember it. I remember this thing. So many young people are so happy about it. ICT. ICT, digital economy, and creative economy. This is one thing that has been really flopped, because he promised to roll out 100,000 kilometer fiber optic connectivity network so that he can collect villages, counties, schools, homes, and 24,000 plus businesses. Has this happened? I don't think so, because we are still battling with the Safaricom. Sometimes the internet is wavy. And also, I have friends who teach in Turkana, a cousin who is ahead in Turkana. He tells me the internet there is very poor. The whole week, sometimes you just get 2 days where you can connect yourself, but the rest of the days you are in darkness. So, has internet been enhanced? No. He promised to build ICT labs and incubators in industrial parks anchored by TVET institutions, with support software, export, and whatever. Recently, I heard him saying that when he went to China, the kind of money, the supply of what? There's something he explained, that it was not enough to support what is in Kenya. I was like, what is this? Anyway, the other promise we got from Kenya Kwanza, the 6th promise, was on infrastructure and manufacturing. They promised us that they were going to have road projects, prioritize rural access roads and informal settlement infrastructure. They were also going to use locally available raw materials such as hides and skins for leather and local building products, pharmaceuticals, to boost manufacture of local value addition. I don't know whether this has been gained. I've not heard so much. Of course, for the road projects, I've heard him mention so many roads, but the ones which have been launched are few. The number 7 promise was that governance, security, and devolution will be looked at. And the promise was to strengthen the constitutional implementation, rule of law, judicial independence, and human rights. I laugh at this. How many Kenyans have been protected? Because I looked at the issue of Bob, for example, Bob Njagi and Olo Nicholas, who are in Uganda for 39 days. I also looked at the matter of Boniface Mwangi, who was in Tanzania. Of course, I don't really defend them, because going across borders and expecting to be protected by Kenya might be a bit hard. But then, when you see what Chergei came up to say that if any busybody is going to an external country, then that country should be really serious on them and deal with them thoroughly. And then now bring them back to be dealt with, wafinywe. That is what Chergei says. Chergei alisema wakuje, wafinywe huko, na wakikuja tena waendelee kufinywa wakiwa Kenya. So this one, of course, when you look at governance, security, and devolution, that is one area where our government has failed, because they have not really strengthened the constitution. Instead, they are weakening. When you look at the 9 laws, of course, I did a video on this one. I don't know whether you looked at it. He is weakening constitutional implementation by creating laws which reverse. They are doing reverse psychology to some of the laws which have been offering the freedom of expression, protection of the media, and communication and expression. Yeah? Human rights have not been so well catered for in Kenya. We have seen in 2024 and 2023, a lot of people died. We also saw a lot of abductions, and so much happened, okay? Judicial independence, I don't think we have that. There is a lot of arrests around judicial independence. When you look at judiciary in Kenya, it's not free. Koome is just a caricature. We saw Justice Muturi, when he was trying to be independent, he was pushed out and called he was called incompetent. And of course, I'm going to show you a video on that. I don't know why people are calling me. When I'm busy on a video live stream, they're affecting my performance here. All right, so we also saw the aid this government, and this is the last promise they had. Women, youth, and persons with disability. You know, we saw, in fact, I've not finished the aspect of governance. The Kenya Kwanza promised security reforms. They had promised that they are going to have security reforms that will reduce police misconduct, extrajudicial killings, strengthen oversight bodies like IPOA and the EACC, and among other independent bodies, even like the Electoral Commission. Are they independent? I don't think so. We have actually seen even the person chosen in Electoral Commission has a lot of strings attached from the government. All right? When we see IPOA has not done a very good job in many things, including the death of Ojwang. What we expected is not what we saw. Yeah? We also saw that during the moment of Sabasaba, some media houses were stormed and they were not supposed to stream whatever was happening. Okay? Yeah, so the last promise by Kenya Kwanza was that women, youth, persons with disability will actually have to realize the 2/3 gender rule in elective and appointive positions within 12 months of election. And they will allocate 50% of cabinet positions to women. I'm not so sure whether this was attained, because I can see the kina Karen Nyamu, Wamchomba, the Gladys Wangas and all that. I'm not so sure. This one I have to research before I can critique this. They also promised to increase support for women cooperatives, chamas, table banking through Hustler Fund, allocate dedicated proportions of BWRDs. Of course, Hustler Fund is there, but we heard a lot of things about it. Recently, I saw our president in Mumias. He was defending Hustler Fund. He was also defending the program called Nyota program. And for sure, I didn't make efforts to really understand it deeply, because from the promise, he was trying to tell us that as citizens, we have to go for the loans in Hustler Fund, and from the way we continue paying, we can go to the bridge and also take bigger loans, and after that he can now take us to the bank where we can take millions. I was like, okay, let me see as people do it. Okay, so let's now come back to, I want us to come back to the fake declaration. So the president under Al Jazeera decided to say that he has achieved what he was meant to achieve. But I've listened to so many people, including Gachagua, of course, is a political image. I've also listened to Kalonzo Musyoka. And on the other hand, I've listened to Senator Onyonka. I've again listened to Sifuna. I've listened to a multiple number of people, including a young lady recently who was talking about what is happening in Kenya. So I'll be randomly talking about some people here and discussing what's happening, and you're free to drop your comment based on what you can hear. Continue also subscribing to the channel, guys. That is one thing that I urge you. So even though the light is not so good here, but we proceed.
And I've done 8. Let me give you a rundown of 3 or 4 or 5 issues. Number 1, I have fixed the economy. Kenya is now listed as the 6th largest economy in Africa because of the steps I have taken. And our stock exchange was voted the best stock exchange in Africa. So we have fixed the economy. Number 2, we have...
RUTO has fixed the economy. The stock exchange of our country has been listed as the best, according to what he says. I was a person who used to conduct a stock exchange. Actually, I used to do some trading in this. But can you really attest this in the hands of the middle class? Now, currently, I don't even money to do stocks, you know? So I don't know when he says this, who are these people investing in stocks? Are they the cream, de la cream, or anybody else at the normal level? That's a question he should ask himself. Because as far as the president is saying that the stocks have gone high and the dollar has gone high, whom has it gone high for? Because it might have gone high, but for the affluent, maybe the political class who are doing trade, The rest of the Kenyans are not able to. As I told you, I was doing stock. During the time Safaricom sold shares, I was in that. There was also a time I bought other shares. But now, the common citizen is not able to buy shares. They don't even have an idea about it, because they are struggling from hand to mouth. So they don't have space to actually go buy stocks. So when you talk about stocks, Ruto, you are talking about yourself and the rest of your class. Those are the ones who are conducting that trade. Anyway, let's proceed.
Fixed agriculture. Today, we have increased the production of maize by 50% from 44 million bags every year to now close to 70 million bags last year. We have reformed the sugar sector. We are well on the way to being self-sufficient in sugar.
I also laugh at that because he has reformed the sugar aspect, but Nzoia is still a sleeping giant. Nzoia used to produce a lot of sugar we could see in supermarkets. Now today you walk in Kenya, you will not see Nzoia sugar. The only company that is now surviving, and I don't know whether Gachagua is saying the truth, and Malala yesterday tried to say in a political rally somewhere in Kakamega that Ruto has been able to purchase that company and agree with some Indian people to register in their name. I don't know whether these are political propaganda or the reality, but then some of the companies that were dying, especially Mumias, there is some saga around it. The only company that has been surviving is, I think, a Kabras Sugar Company, which has two of major, we call them doors, or rather mouth. One of it is at Butali, another one is at West Sugar Company on the way to Lukume when you branch from Kambi ya Mwanza. Then there is another branch at Naitiri for West Sugar Company. And so West Sugar Company is majorly producing sugar. Mumias has revived, but it's still a giant. When you look at Nzoia, is still dead. Muhoroni is doing a little bit, but not very well. Wendo, not very well. We have Wasi and which other company? So when I look at this, I can still see we are importing a lot of sugar. So when it says we are almost on the way to self-sustenance, and as a farmer, I've done also sugar farming. When I look at farming of sugarcane, actually the pay used to be a bit high, then it came down. And currently, a lot of farmers are crying about the price of sugar. Sugar, when you harvest, actually the returns are not as high as expected. So let me continue to listen. He has also said that they have really worked on maize production. Of course, we may say, yeah, there is some fertilizer that came from the government. Let's give credit to that. But when it comes now to the farmer, currently, like in Trans Nzoia, if you are selling maize currently as a farmer, you are supposed to sell maize at 2,000, one sack. So if you are a farmer and you've actually invested in maize, does it pay? It doesn't. It doesn't pay. And of course, last year, a lot of people reserved their beans thinking that it will go high, but it has currently, like you can't buy beans at 200 and 300 price for 2 kg. It goes at a bit of 200 or even something lower. So the farmer is actually suffering because you are still forced to buy fertilizer. Of course, the fertilizer was a bit of cheaper than earlier, but the other labor, when it comes to fuel, it's high. So the tractor will plow your farm, you'll have to pay high. The laborers who are harvesting, because inflation is there, they'll demand for enough money. When it comes to harvesting, labor money is just the same. So even if he's talking about adequate food, when it comes to agribusiness, I don't see how it has really helped the farmers. Anyway, let's go to the next point. I'm not going to go through everything entirely, but I'm going to go through majority of this.
We have fixed the education system. The education system was in shambles. I've hired 100,000 more teachers, built 23,000 more classrooms, and rolled out a new student funding model that now has made all our universities sustainable. Number 4, I did...
The president has enhanced education. My goodness, when most schools closed, there was no capitation. There was no capitation at all. We saw schools closing early, even though term 3 is a very short term, it's just a term with around 8 weeks. But some schools strained, they had to close earlier before money did not come in time. We have also seen already that government has announced that next year we are going to have parents paying day school. They'll have to pay more money because now that as aspect of students receiving 22,000 is not there. They are only going to receive 12,000. What does that mean? Next year, parents are going to pay more fee, even day schools. Now, when it comes to boarding schools, the government has stated clearly that the minimum amount is 54,554 minimum. What does that mean? The national schools are going to raise their fees, and even at the regional or extra county schools, because they will not allow themselves to compete with sub-county schools. You know? So that is automatically meaning that 50% of capitation has been removed from the parents, from the schools capitation. So the schools will receive very little. What does that mean? Even business will go down for many people who have been selling products to schools, because a school will not sacrifice their money towards products when in reality they are not receiving a lot from the government. So the future is blur. Now, he talks about having hired 100,000 teachers. Remember, the system changed. Yeah? So if the system changed and we had this extra class coming at grade 9, grade 6, 7, 8, up to 9, 7, 8, 9, never used to be there. It used to be class 1 up to 8 under primary school. The introduction of senior school automatically demanded teachers, Mr. President. So you didn't have to say that you really hired a lot of teachers and build classes. Those classes were targeting the junior school. Anyway, let's continue to listen. Now, the university students have been at home for 7 weeks. The president says he has done a very proper model of actually financing education. Yet, if I compare times when I was in university and current, the fees that is being paid is very high. A peasant farmer will not afford it. Even a teacher will not afford. If you have 2 kids or 3 in university, I'm telling you, it will be very difficult for you to afford. Anyway, let's continue listening.
That I would fix the health sector. We had 8 million people on social health insurance. Today we have 27.2 million people. We have improved services in hospitals. We are getting more medicine to hospital. We are getting more workers to hospital. We are getting more equipment to hospitals. And finally, the big elephant of unemployment. You know, many young people voted for me because unemployment has never been fixed in Kenya. And for decades, the biggest problem we have is 5% of our population have no jobs. And as a result, we have millions of young people that get out of college, school, and universities that have no jobs. What have I done? 4 things. Number 1, I rolled out the largest infrastructure development in Kenya, targeting housing. We're now building 230,000 houses, hiring 600,000 young people, on to 1 million young people next year. We've rolled out a program on digital jobs, expanding our fiber optic connectivity around the country, setting up ICT hubs, what we call Ajira centers, business process outsourcing. Today we are hiring 180,000 young people in our digital job ecosystem. And number 3, export of labor. We have signed up bilateral labor agreements with many countries, Germany, Austria, this great country, Qatar, UAE, Saudi. And today, as I talk to you, 3 years on, 430,000 Kenyans are working outside Kenya because of the
Okay, according to President, a job has been assorted. So many people are going outside to work there based on the contracts Kenya had with other nations. He also says that he has created a lot of ICT hubs, and so many Kenyans have been hired in them. And he also says that because of housing, so many young people have been, maybe according to you, but I'll look around, people are still jobless. Talk about any time there is demonstrations, you will see them on the streets, a clear indication that joblessness is there. And even though for generations we've had joblessness, it doesn't mean that we keep sitting there, because if the president promises us the first world country, then we expect he must pull tooth and nail to ensure that we are getting a solution to this. He shouldn't be saying that the previous regimes never solved it, because of course when he promised it, he had a magic to do it. And so I saw him in yesterday's event somewhere, and he was trying to actually promise what he will do for Samburu. Now, there is another question Al Jazeera asked him whether he's a dictator, and he came along to say that Kenya is the most, the most democratic nation. He said, according to him, he is one of the leaders who is tolerant to any sort of communication. Then I just asked myself, in the previous regimes, we have never seen a president who has hunted down a citizen and actually having a situation as what Ojwang experienced, dying because of having communicated something, because I don't think whatever was said would actually have killed anybody. I don't think so. When you see people like, we normally see this lady, why is her name disappearing? She keeps posting information and she has been abducted many times. We also see now the reason why Chergay sees these activists as a problem is because they don't believe in freedom of expression. Because how do you call activists busybodies? Chergay called activists like Njagi and Nicholas Olo and Boniface Mwangi busybodies. How do you call the activists busybodies when they have a role to play in a country? Anyway, let's look at one more thing, then we come to a different analysis.
In Kenya, the Standard had on its front page rogue RUTO, and you stopped live media coverage, or tried to, of these protests. Kenya's known for its freedom of media. It's one of the great beacons of free media in Kenya. People I've spoken to, young Kenyans, say they are worried now about censorship in your country.
I don't think so. I mean, you yourself just said tried, because it never happened. I mean, media is independent in Kenya. They write all manner of stuff. I think what you've just said, rogue, is one of the mildest. They say all manner of things about me. They say all manner of things about other people. I don't agree with what they write. I don't agree with what they say, but they have the right to say it whichever way they want. They are also free to lie and to churn out falsehood. I mean, it's up to their conscience to write the right thing. But the people of Kenya ultimately will make an assessment of who has exceeded, who has not, who has done the right thing, who has not.
Let's focus on
Everything. I did sign the law.
Oh my God. And I was almost just asking, Mr. President, what about the 10 laws? Of course, I looked at them. There were 2 laws that were touching on the freedom of expression. What about that? But let me see. This guy asked at some point.
Or that prohibits public officers to participate in doing business with government, what we call the conflict of interest bill. Now it is law. I did sign this into law 3 months ago. We have deployed additional resources to the anti-corruption agency. We have deployed additional resources to the Director of Public Prosecution. We have hired more judges. I think I've hired the most judges than any president in 3 years to make sure that the criminal justice system, the judiciary, is properly enabled to deal with all manner of issues everywhere. We see, for example, in the West, people moving more right, others moving in the left, and everything in between. So there is a dynamic globally that is changing, and society is responding to different characters. Who expected, for example, that we would have the kind of...
Anyway, that is our president for you. Now we are moving to a different area. We want to see what others think about our president, of course, as a comparison. So we saw President Uhuru while at at Samburu, he really tried to defend himself against what Gachagua said and what Uhuru said. And he kept saying that those are just naysayers. Whatever they are saying is neither there nor there. If you want to develop, listen to me and let me do what I have to do. So I want you to listen just partly at something brief without boring you so much.
Mbali na mambo ya kujenga hostels, pia nimekuja hapa kwa sababu sehemu kubwa ya Samburu East na Samburu mzima hamjapata stima ya kutosha. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Kweli ama si kweli? Sababu hiyo ndio mimi nimekuja kuwaambia tayari tumewapatia shilingi bilioni 1 kuunganisha wananchi zaidi ya 10,000 kwa huduma ya stima. Na ndio wanapata nafasi ya kwenda hospitali kwa sababu wako na uwezo wa kulipa. Mwananchi wa kawaida inabidi auze ng'ombe yake ama auze shamba yake ama auze mali yake ndio aweze kulipia hospitali. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Mimi nawauliza jameni, sasa tumebadilisha mfumo wa afya. Mimi nimesema ya kwamba Kenya hii tunataka usawa. Mimi nataka niwaeleze, matibabu sio starehe ya matajiri na watu wako na kazi. Matibabu ni haki ya kila Mkenya. Ama namna gani my friends? Ndio mnasikia ya kwamba tumebadilisha, sasa tuko na universal health coverage. Na tumesema kila mwananchi, wewe mwananchi wa Achas Post, nataka unisikize vizuri. Muko tayari? Kila mwananchi sasa wewe ujiandikishe kwa SHA. Kila mwananchi. Kujiandikisha ni bure. Mnasema tufanye kazi pamoja? Mnasema tufanye kazi pamoja? Mimi nataka niwaeleze. Mimi nimesema tumefanya kazi kubwa. Tumestabilize mambo ya cost of living. Watu hawakuamini ya kwamba bei ya unga inaweza kuteremka chini. Lakini tumeteremusha mbolea, tukateremusha mbegu, bei ya unga imekuwa sawa sawa. Pale walikuwa hawaamini ya kwamba tunaweza kuajiri walimu. Sasa tumeajiri walimu 100,000. Hawakuamini tunaweza kuwa mfumo ya afya mpya. Sasa tuko na SHA na wananchi milioni 27 tayari wamejiandikisha kwa SHA. Hawakuamini program ya affordable housing na markets na hostels itaendelea. Sasa inaendelea. Sasa mimi nimetangaza ya kwamba ile msingi tumeweka, sasa tuko na nafasi ya kuondoa nchi yetu from a third world country to a first world country.
So the president kept actually insisting that he's going to make this country a first world country. And he said the rest of those who don't believe are just, their brains are just one term.
Nyinyi hamukuamini chochote tuliwaambia tutabadilisha Kenya. Hata saa hizi hamuwezi kuamini ya kwamba we can move our country from a third world country to a first world country. But we are going to shock you. We are going to surprise you because Kenya in our lifetime is going to move from a third world country to a first world country because we have the plan, we have the vision and we have the resources to do it. Nyinyi hamuna. Ama namna gani bwana? Sinaelewana? Si walituambia haiwezekani kupunguza gharama ya maisha? Si walituambia haiwezekani turahishe mambo ya elimu? Si walituambia
So when I looked at this, then I thought that the president was addressing Uhuru Kenyatta, because actually the one who said that they cannot is either Uhuru Kenyatta or ODM. So who was the president addressing? Maybe if you understand from away from what I think, you can drop a comment in the comment section. And if you also believe that our president is going to attain what he is saying here, let us hear from you. Now, of course, Cheriot is one person that is strongly standing by the government. And I don't know, there is a rumor that came up that before the passing on of Baba, that Baba had wanted to have their candidate in ODM as a movement as RUTO. Now I'm trying to understand this because of late, Cheriot and Ichungwa, I don't know why they were actually they were putting on capes by ODM, and whatever they were saying, they were actually now hurling abuses at Kalonzo Musyoka. Let's just check at this. I want you to check at this briefly. Just briefly, look at that. Yeah, that is Cheriot and Ichungwa in ODM caps. That is a very heavy message, actually. When I saw that, I was shocked, you know. And away from that, we saw Cheriot actually speaking a lot of, I don't know whether to call it trash or nonsensical statements. So I want you to listen at Cheriot partly, and before you just proceed.
People here, they are now trying to tell us how they sacrifice for Raila. I want to tell them, speaking from Kenya, there is a difference. You did not sacrifice for Raila. Raila sacrificed for you. Kama wewe una insist kukuwa running mate na ukipatiwa unashindwa kuleta kura ya kutosha mpaka ipitishe baba, ni wewe umesaidia baba ama baba amekusaidia? Si nyinyi mnajua 2007 sisi tulikuwa, mimi the first voter I ever voted from councillor to president was for the party of ODM. Wewe mtu asituambie
So Cheriot finally has become ODM and Ichungwa as well. I don't know. In their mind, or is it in their perception? Now, I'm trying to understand, because someone actually said that ODM is somehow based on the final agreement. And this was Owinda or someone, and I'm beginning to agree with this. Anyway, as we continue, let's also listen to this, because now Cheriot is doing a double speech. Before Baba died, he said something which was very controversial. I want you to just pay attention to what he said earlier, and maybe see whether whatever he's now saying agrees with what he's saying currently.
ODM. I told you on 3 weeks ago here that the reason why we passed the Political Parties Amendment Act, it is called the Raila Insurance Law in the political circles. It is meant so that if you go into any political agreement with Raila Odinga, at least it can secure you. Because anybody else who has worked with him from previously, they have always been shortchanged. And that's why we have all these challenges that they're experiencing. So the long and short of it is that,
oh my God.
If you make your bed.
Oh my God. So whatever he's communicating here, I don't know whether you understand. You know, Cheriot was trying to be very critical about the situation of ODM. And he was passing what we call the ODM bill for whatever reason. I don't understand why he was doing that, you know. I don't understand. But I'm just trying to check deep into this discussion, and how I wish that I got to understand his current and the former discussion. So let me just ensure that I'm charging this phone. It doesn't have enough power as I proceed. And Cheriot and Ichungwa are actually indirectly attacking Kalonzo Musyoka. And I'm like, what is the fear? Do they fear that when Kalonzo Musyoka took 100 cows to Bondo, they are now have the favor of the people? I'm not so sure. So let's just check on something here. What is this?
Anywho, that aside,
Cheriot with matope. So all that he has is matope all over the place, either communication or whatever. So of course, remember, even though they are fighting Kalonzo Musyoka, even before Baba passed on, Baba actually endorsed, or rather showed that Kalonzo Musyoka was a genuine soul. And we also had the other day Oburu Odinga and James Orengo and Mama Ida saying that that Kalonzo Musyoka deserves some respect. I don't know. But when it comes to people like Kimani Ichungwa or Cheriot, whatever they say, it's like what Farouk and Sudi also says. They don't.
ana moyo, jamaa ana ukakamavu, jamaa ni mtu ambaye unaweza kumwamini Yeye ni mtu mwaminifu, yeye tena ni mtu Mkristo, yeye ni mtu ana tabia ya mpingwana.
All right, so look at the past information from Baba. Of course, Baba had endorsed, in one way, another different time, he had endorsed this guy, Kalonzo Musyoka. And James Orengo just did exactly that, and Mama Ida, if you can recall on what was said. So I don't know why they are so afraid after Kalonzo went to Ajaka Border Farm. The people are so scared that they are now dropping bombs after bombs. I don't know whether it's to scare or make things look like they are not worth. But I just had to actually listen to Onyonga. Senator Onyonga has some thoughts about this interview and the realities in the government, and as well to what happened in Tanzania and Kenya. And even before that, I don't know why there is a thought that Tanzania is backward, Uganda is dictatorship, and Kenya is a betrayer. Betraying its own people. Like, how do you betray your own activists? How does Chergei, for example, come up with a statement and say that wafinywe? You know, that's a very funny statement, and I want to bring that before I can bring Senator Onyonka. I want you to listen to this guy and whatever he dropped. It's so unfortunate actually for Senator Chergei to drop what he dropped the other day. It's so annoying also, but let's listen to this.
To other countries. Stop it. Don't. The countries of Uganda, Tanzania as a foreign countries. Tunashukuru Mheshimiwa Museveni alikubali kuachilia kina hawa Bob Njagi na wale wengine activists. Wezi enda kwa nyumba ya mtu unaanza kukorogana. Mimi nataka nimuulize Mheshimiwa Samia Suluhu Hassan, Mheshimiwa Museveni, I want to ask President Museveni and President Samia Suluhu Hassan, if you get any busy bodies activists who want to destabilize the sovereignty and the peace and tranquility of your country, finya hawa, warudishe nyumbani tuwamalizie. Now you know if
you got that? Finya hao busy bodies, alafu warudisha nyumbani na tuendelee kuwafinya. So what is this telling us about Njagi? Possibly the government was not ready even to campaign for the return of Njagi and Nicholas, or even if they are coming. Because I saw another video yesterday after Museveni had indicated that he had put them in a fridge, and he had also said that these were people he doesn't even know the names, but from his intelligence, he realized that they are serious people who cause a lot of chaos in Kenya. I was like, who told you that? Possibly you are trying to coordinate between Kenya and Uganda. There is some coordination actually that has led to that. Annabelle, wacha kufanya hivi. Unaenda kwa wenyewe na wewe unachokoza watu. So it's unfortunate actually to look at that kind of situation where we are seeing Museveni connecting with Kenyan leaders, and then they mistreat people like Njagi and Olo. I felt so devastated to actually think of this kind of statements, and even Chergei himself. You know, Chergei sometimes I don't understand. He has been making very awkward statements in Parliament, and sometimes now this was not even Parliament, but it was a public address, and I was like, would he not just keep quiet about that matter? Because now when he says this, what is he trying to communicate to other countries? Is he trying to approve what other nations like Tanzania, Uganda have done to the Kenyans? Even though I don't agree with the fact of people coming from Kenya and going beyond borders to intervene, even in demonstrations or participate in programs, because it seems that there's no one who will help you. Automatically, no Kenyan leader is ready to sacrifice for any person who goes to another country and is caught up there. Because if you look at the 38 days, and of course Museveni indicated clearly that with the respect he has for Uhuru and the call he received from Uhuru, that is why the two had to be left scot-free. Otherwise, Mudavadi would not have helped, or anyone else, because this guy respects only military backgrounds. And when he looks at Uhuru Kenyatta, because he is the son of Kenyatta who fought in independence, he kind of submits to him. But when it comes to even Ruto or whoever it is, he does not respect them because they never took anything to the military. So, but when I look at Chergei's statement, I just consider that our Kenyan leaders are a bit of a letdown. They are a letdown in many of the ways that we cannot tell, because the situation is very traumatizing when you look at what the comments Chergei has just dropped. Part that I saw, I want you to look at this picture and what do you tell of it? So that picture tells volumes about our leaders anyway. And I just listened to what David Wafula said.
So-called Trinity of Terror. The leaders were terrorizing their fellow countrymen with a...
And of course, according to David Wafula, these are leaders who are terrorizing their fellow countrymen in whatever ways, whether it's through economic disempowerment or whether it's through military attacks like what we are seeing a lot with Bobby Wine suffering a lot under Museveni, and he is calling them children. You saw on the interview, both on radio and TV, he said that these children have been sent by the EU or European countries that don't want to see Africa grow. And if they are given leadership, what will they use the leadership for? So for him, he doesn't trust that these children like Bobby Wine can do anything with the leadership if given. When you come to Ruto, he is always banking into our head that 2027 he must be there. He must move this country from third world to first world. He must build the roads. He must build the markets. He must ensure that we pay. If you have work, you pay health care for those who don't have work. He must also ensure that the empowerment, or rather something to do with education, is structured in his own thought. He must build the houses for the poor through the pay slip of the civil servants. He must. So he has banked it into our head, and he's telling us that his work is going to elect him back in 2027. And therefore, people should not make a lot of noise. Instead, they should keep quiet and let him do his work. And when you look at Suluhu Samia, Mama wa Tanzania, all she's doing is to suppress. She's suppressing, oppressing, at the same time making sure that she loots and hoots and shoots. Just like Kenya is doing. We have been seeing shooting, looting, and hooting on the streets. Yeah, the leaders always hoot by talking back. What Chergei has said, what Duale says, what Sudi says, what Ichungwa says, what Farouk says, they have been hooting at us. When we look at shooting, they have already said that they are going to shoot anybody that is going to appear like they are demonstrating. They have to be shot in the legs. While Murkomen said they have to be shot, and they don't have apology for that. And I think even on Al Jazeera interview, our president said he's not sorry to have said that. When we look at Tanzania, they have been shooting all over the places, killing a lot of people, foreigners and their own citizens. Uganda, they have already begun the shooting. Of course, we saw on Saturday when Bobby Wine was heading to Mbarara for the campaigns. He was actually waylaid on the way. They had to force all the supporters to sit down in the mud on the road, and then they were tracked into a police station. And all this kind of situation, Museveni just yesterday said that they cannot allow these children to keep destabilizing Uganda, because Uganda is so stable. It has industries, it has all that they need. They are almost going to have oil, and therefore they are going to be independent country without the need of those European nations. When you look at the aspect of looting, of course, a lot of looting is happening in Kenya left and right. Most of our leaders are looting from the grassroots of the MCAs. the women representative, we have the MPs, we have the governors, the senators. When you see people go into leadership currently, they are not going to represent us. All they are doing is to go and find a way to loot. It's either they loot through contracts, they loot through shady deals, they loot through, projects that they don't fulfill. They supply air and pay companies which we don't know, some of them registered in their names. We saw that evidently on the governor of Busia, governor of Kericho, governor of Isiolo. We saw that, right? Yeah. So they are looting left and right through very many dubious ways. And they are free to say, this is my money, hard-earned money. We wonder how hard you can work in 2 years to acquire millions. I don't know whether I can work in 2 years and acquire millions and be a net worth of, let's say 150 millions, the way we saw Kimani Chungwa the other day saying he had acquired in his own correct ways 150 million Kenyan shillings. I'm like, hey, the next thing I should be doing is to go into politics, Yeah, and we can see they are looting also in other ways, like Nairobi governor. If you look at all governors who have been leaders in Nairobi, and I don't only blame RUTO government, even during Uhuru time, people are still looting. The only time that looting was reduced is Kibaki time. And how I wish we have a leader such as the guy, Kibaki. He looked like he was so quiet, but he was really working. Now, of course, we've heard this from Gachagua. I want us to listen a little bit, just a little bit.
Sasa Januari watu ya secondary mjitayarisha kulipa. Mambo ya primary imeharibika. Mambo ya SHA haifanyi kazi. Biashara zimesimama. Mimi nasikia Ruto akisema ati yako na mpango ati ya kufanya Kenya to be a first world country. Ni muongo si muongo? Now William Ruto aka Githinji kama wewe unasema sisi tuko na akili dogo, haiwezekani tena. Sasa Januari watu ya secondary mjitayarisha kulipa. Mambo ya primary imeharibika. Mambo ya SHA haifanyi kazi. Biashara zimesimama. Na mimi nasikia Ruto akisema ati yako na mpango ati ya kufanya Kenya to be a first world country. Ni muongo si muongo? Now William Ruto aka Githinji kama wewe unasema sisi tuko na akili dogo, unatudharau sana. Kama within 3 years kazi yote Kibaki alifanya ya masomo umeharibu. Kazi ya matibabu Uhuru Kenyatta amefanya umeharibu. Biashara zote umeharibu. Watoto umesema wapigwe risasi kwa mguu. Biashara zote zimeharibika. Wewe Githinji unaambia Wakenya ati wakupatie nafasi ati you can make Kenya a first world country. How?
That is how absurd it gets. Gachagua knows how to actually use the same statements by Ruto to answer back. I don't know. But let's see this. Also from the supporters. What do they think?
Mimi kwa sababu nimekuja hapa na mnisikize vizuri na msichukulie msaa. Uhuru Kenyatta anafaa kwenda kwanza, yeye ni tajiri by nature. Kabla hujaamka alizaliwa kwa mattress, ako vizuri. Sisi wengine tulizaliwa tu kwa ngozi na tuna survive mpaka leo. Hata hao Buguu Waluya hao wako hapa ni kama sisi. Yule mkabila alifukuzwa na ukabila yake na vile anafaa roho chafu. Iko mwingine anaitwa Martha Karua, hata kuenda mazishi ya running mate yake. Si mnaona hii watu iko roho chafu?
The exact same thing that we are seeing with Gideon Moi in that. Gideon for the longest time has been opposing William Ruto in Kalenjin politics. But
anyway, it is what it is, guys. The politics of Kenya are so tough, and we have seen the Botswana. Actually, the Botswana president, I wanted to talk about the Botswana president, and I didn't have time. I don't know whether he's scared because of what the president of Zambia has experienced, Or why is he now speaking? And I want you to look at this video. I don't know, where is this? The Botswana president actually talking about Tanzania leadership. Where is this now? Oh, here it is.
This is out with the old and in with the new. This is M-Pesa on PesaPal Sabi Pass. Accept M-Pesa payments fast with M-Pesa Express. Unajua matamshi mengine saa zingine yanakukumbusha kwamba ukisalia kimya unaonekana mrefu zaidi. Aliyekuwa rais wa Botswana Ian Khama ameshtumu kuapishwa kwa rais wa Tanzania Suluhu Hassan akisema kuwa hatambui kuchaguliwa kwake kwani amejilazimisha kusalia uongozini kwa kuwakandamiza raia wa Tanzania katika uchaguzi ulioshuhudia vifo vya mamia ya Watanzania. Khama alikuwa akizungumza katika chuo kikuu cha Lukenya huko Makueni.
Kuapishwa kwa rais wa Tanzania Samia Suluhu Hassan kumeendelea kuibua shutuma kutoka kwa viongozi barani Afrika. Wa hivi punde ni aliyekuwa rais wa Botswana Seretse Ian Khama ambaye amesema kwamba uchaguzi huo ni balaa, sio suluhu kwa watu wa Tanzania.
The recent election and what transpired, the killings around that election, I for one do not recognize the person who was inaugurated as the president. She is an illegitimate president.
Ian Khama aliyekuwa rais wa Botswana kutoka mwaka 2009 hadi mwaka 2018 na alichukua uongozi kutoka kwa babake Seretse Khama na ambaye juhudi zake za kumpendekeza atakaye mrithi ziliambulia patupu. Ameelezea umuhimu wa viongozi wa Afrika kufuata mkondo wa demokrasia.
It is totally unacceptable when an African leader, in order to stay in power, will resort to killing his or her people.
All right, so that is just briefly what the former president of Botswana has actually shared, indicating that he is not comfortable with seeing Suluhu as the president of Tanzania after a lot of people died in her hands after her election that was controversial. Anyway, there is the last part of what Senator Onyonka has, and I wouldn't skip him because he shares a lot. I was supposed to bring Justin Muturi also, but I'm not so sure about this because we have already gone beyond our time. I normally like a video that takes 1 hour 30 minutes maximum. So let's see, we have about 7 minutes to go. So let's see whether we can bring both Senator Onyonka and Justice Muturi.
Wake up today and talk about governance and leadership, and people have been like, oh, why is this lady behaving in such a manner? Because we didn't think she is a complete capitalist whose interests are being challenged. Every single transaction that has taken place in Tanzania, whether it's for the gas which the government had discovered before Kikwete left, and Suluhu has come up and brought Kikwete's friends are now the ones who have struck the deal on how the railway that is being done from the Tanzania railway that is coming up to Moshi, whether it is land which is leasing out to the Qataris and the UAE honchos. I mean, they go, they form up their companies, they take those companies from the Cayman Islands, then they bring those companies and investors who are coming to take over millions and millions of acres of land so that then this land can produce food, which is supposed to be exported out of the country. And then you see what they want to do is bring machines to work on those farms so Tanzanians will not even have jobs. I mean, every single thing being done is you have oligarchs that are managing the resources of our countries, that are sharing with the external factors and external individuals and outfits, and they are sharing the profits out of this, and they're asking Africans to sit around and just watch how they're eating from the high table. At some point, that is why they fear these activists, because the moment we begin to tell people that this is what is happening to your resources, people are going to go crazy. Imagine Kenya has got rare minerals on the Mrima Highland, the Mrima Hills in Taita Taveta. The total amount of money the US government wants to pay is $76 billion for those minerals. And then what is happening? A private company is being set that is going to come from somewhere. They are going to take the ownership of these mines and they are going to make all that money for themselves, and Kenya will not receive a single penny.
Senator,
then what do you want me, if I am not an activist? Assume I am an activist. What do you want me to do when all I'm saying is telling you, stop stealing our resources? If you do not allow people to vent and tell you in leadership your mistakes, sooner or later, these people will move from frustration. From frustration, they will move into complete death. They will not see anything or feel anything. The next time you're going to have a civil war. Why? Because they have nothing to lose. So demonstrating and having civic activity and having to talk about the issues that affect our country as openly and publicly as it should be has nothing to do with wanting to get rid of the regime. It's telling the regime, can you fix your mess? Because we know.
All right, so Senator Onyonka is one of the most vocal senators we know in Kenya, and he has a lot of high-profile information, of course. The aspect of minerals, I heard about it. It's unfortunate that Kenya is ready to sell everything. Sell everything. No wonder we had that reformation of... there is a law that was actually amended to allow leaders in Kenya to sell stuff without necessarily going for parliamentary sitting. And you see, like now, minerals at Murima. I know I've been in Taita Taveta for a longest time possible, and I know they have very rare minerals. Talk of green garnet, red garnet, those very rare minerals, actually. So if they are going to sell to a company, private company in America, and then that company will take charge, what will happen of the people of Taita? Automatically they'll become jobless, because now I know of individuals who go there mining and then later on their life improves. But if the US private is going to take over, they'll use that's machines to do the necessary and excavate and all that. And at the end of the day, the people of Taita Taveta will remain without anything. They'll not receive anything. The few billion they were paid will be perishing somewhere, and that will be the end of the story. And of course, whistleblowers and activists are very important in our country. They are very important because they put a government on checks. But then when Chergey calls them busybodies, I don't know. I just don't know. When these people are mourning on the grave of Baba, talking about justice, democracy, truthfulness, I was like, stop it, because none of you believes in democracy, justice, or the freedom of expressions, and even the aspect that we are talking about. But they kept mourning and talking about it only to fool the mourners and possibly carry the day and appear in newspapers and on platforms. You know, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But just as Senator Onyonka is saying, sometimes you fail what to do. But silence is not the cure to the illness that, or rather the wrongs that happen in our country. So many people want us to keep quiet. They say, shut up, shut up. They even come to this channel and say, shut up. Why are you talking? Why are you talking? Can't you find something to do? But silence is not the cure to wrongs. I would rather speak and maybe end up to wherever you think I'll end up. But at least, out of speaking, some people understand some things that are going on in silence. And that is why some of us do a lot of research every day. We come up, we show up every day to talk about these things. Not because we are going to really solve the problems immediately, but we know that one day, maybe through our voice, something will happen. So let's listen more to Senator Onyonka. We have about 2 minutes to go, and then we go listen to Justin Muturi a little bit, fixing the nation, and then we come to an end.
Justice, meritocracy, those things that make a country become a nation state. What we are doing is we are splitting up this thing we call our country into small little bits and pieces. The ones who make loudest noise about how you people are the ones who are tribal. They're the ones who are appointing 560 people from their community and they're sharing their largesse. We are talking about why are we not able to raise very little money to deal with mother-child healthcare issues. We are busy buying new Land Cruisers for government officers, which are consuming 4.0, diesel, oil, fuel, diesel. I mean,
we're not prioritizing what's...
Yes, we are just a nation that does not understand that we need to be a state, that we need to be an entity that has got functionality that accommodates everybody's interest in terms of fairness and equity.
A little later, I know we'll have a question to you about your own ambitions.
Yes.
Because I'm really curious to find out how you straddle having to be part of a group of people.
Yes.
Who, in essence, you disagree with the formation, you disagree with their ideologies.
With whatever they do.
With whatever they do. But
another brilliant question.
Yes, we'll come to that a little bit later.
Yes.
But we want to come back to the broad-based, really trying to go back from saying broad-based.
Let's finish with Muturi as we close the chapter, because the politics can never end.
Politics, yeah. Many questions.
The politics in Kenya can never end.
Been critical of broad
is broke. Walikuwa na maanisha nini wakisema kwamba Kenya haina fedha wakati ule? Manake alikuwa katika serikali ya William RUTO wakati ilikuwa inaanza, na usemi huo tulisikia empty coffers. Atakuwa anatueleza Kenya zaidi mtazamaji, hivyo usiende mbali. Mi trabajo es fácil porque
what is this now?
Así es como hago un seguimiento de todas
That's
mis
como
tareas.
organize the to-dos.
William RUTO na watu wake iko siku walijaribu kuletea bill, sijui alikuwa ametoa wapi, ati to establish the office of the first lady. Wale vijana wake alituma waniletee nikiwa mwanasheria mkuu. Nikaangalia, nikasoma, nikaisoma, nikawatupia. Niambia go back. You return to sender. Kitu gani hiki mnaniletea? Ni wapi duniani mshasikia kitu kama hichi? Nani ame draft hizi sheria mnaniletea? Unajua hiyo yote sasa inaonyesha William anasema ni incompetent. William mimi mwenyewe ni kama ushauri wa kwanza nilimwambia hii ofisi ya Felix Kosgei kama vile ilikuwa kinywa. Na mimi hata wakati ya uhuru nilikuwa nimesema hii ofisi is unconstitutional. Uwezi kuwa na ofisi unaita chief of staff na head of public service na ni mtu who is never vetted.
Anyway, we'll talk about Muturi tomorrow. Today we've just seen the tips of the iceberg, but the reality is that there is a lot of disorder. And even though in the eyes of the public, some of these